what I have is I wanted to go over my 5 favorite leadership and influence books. I was looking at my bookshelf over here on the side and just letting it kind of call out to me, like, what are my favorite books? And I figured I'd pull a couple of them off the shelf and I'd talk about them. So I've got them in no particular order, but here's one right here. This was a really big book for me. It's called Marine Rifleman. It was written by Colonel Fox. It was an autobiography. Colonel Wesley Fox, retired. He's now dead. Medal of Honor recipient for Vietnam. He also went to the Korean War. I don't remember all the necessary details in this, but there was something I learned from this that was so powerful about leadership that it was just it really touched my soul, and it mapped onto something that I had been thinking and I had not experienced while I was in the Marine Corps. Marine Corps. And, but I had seen in this. And so at one point in time, while my dad was in the Marine Corps, and I was also in the Marine Corps, I should say this regularly so people remember this. He actually was the commanding officer of OCS, I think, while my dad was there for, like a staff course or something like that. So it wasn't that long ago that he was actually in, and he was leading the officer candidate school. Now, one of the stories that he has in it is just so awesome. I guess I should keep holding up the book. One of the stories, there's like 3 or 4 that come to mind. Reading his book made me realize that really loving and caring about people is not just okay, but it is a core key component to leading people. And I had started to come to this kind of realization that I needed to change the way that I viewed people, and that I needed to have a very, very deep sense of connection to them, like a very deep connection. And when you're in the Marine Corps, at least I was in from 2004 to 2010. These are some these are some interesting years. You should go and look them up. This was a tough branch, and I felt very dog eat dog. And I would say that the Marine Corps ought not ever be dog eat dog. And what dog eat dog means is you're on your own. You better do as best as you can, and you better outcompete everybody here, because that's all anybody cares about is whether or not you're in the ranking and you're the top person in terms of actual capability and performance, not leadership capability, maybe not even per se effectiveness, but in just like various things. I got very bitter about this, things of like cutting scores. They're like hiring people, or they're like raising people up because they can run well. What does that have to do with the fact of whether or not you have a brain to do intelligence? It's absolutely insane to me. But another rant for another day. This isn't a rant. This is about this man who has and will continue to impact people long after his death. Now, the story that he had in here that like really brought it up was this dude was while he was at OCS as the commanding officer, he would run the physical fitness test with them, and he would run the 3 miles, and he would beat most of the people there, other than the few, kids who were like crazy triathlon, like runner types, like marathon runners who were just like the best. He would beat everybody. And this guy's a colonel he's probably in his 50s, been to multiple wars. I mean, had been blown up, all sorts of stuff. And, well, at least I think he's been blown up. Anyways, I shouldn't say too much, but he would run and he would beat these people, and he would get all the way to the end. And instead of like going off and doing whatever he's going to do, he would stay at the end and cheer everybody on. He makes it very clear that he was like very excited for everybody there. He really wanted them to do well, and he wanted to see that he was there cheering them on. That is huge. No one does that. No one except like real intentional leaders. This is a phenomenal book from that. It's such a great read. All right, let's see here. This was another one. Oh, this black book. The Tao Te Ching. I've got, how many copies of this do I have? Here's another Tao Te Ching. Let's see. I think I have 5 copies of the Tao Te Ching. And if you don't know, the Tao Te Ching is we'll call it the foundational document of Taoism. And I definitely believe that this is a phenomenal book on leadership and influence. And I have 5 versions of this book because the book is, it was written in ancient Chinese. And let me see, this book's kind of cool. It's got it's got it broken out into individual chapters. They're real easy to read. They're like little tiny pages, single pages on a particular topic. And this was just a good book. I've got 5 different translations of it. I will say some of the translations are a little bit different, but they'll do different kind of stuff. And I do believe that the meaning of the words actually kind of changes. But I felt that if I read enough versions of these, I could read between the lines and get the actual essence of it, reading through, interpreting multiple at kind of the same time, the same kind of lens. And this book on Taoism, it centers you in a spiritual aspect of kind of like an understanding of kind of how things weave together at the highest levels. And what it does is it uses that to kind of, I would argue it's kind of a logical steps of like, therefore you should do this, and this from the original premise. And one of those things is how you treat people. Now there was this great quote. Let me see if I can. Oh yeah, here we go. There's so many great quotes here. And so here's one on, oh yeah, man, this is this is the real stuff. By the way, this is written, I think in 500 BC. I think that's when this was written, 2000 BC. I can't quite remember. It is old, very old. Definitely predates the New Testament and many of these other things. So anyways, fine weapons are ill-omened tools. They are hated. Therefore, the old Taoists ignore them. At home, honor the left. In war, honor the right. Weapons are ill-omened tools, not proper instruments. When their use can't be avoided, calm restraint is best. Don't think they are beautiful. Those who think they are beautiful rejoice in killing people. Those who rejoice in killing people cannot achieve their purpose in the world. Good omens honor the left. Bad omens honor the right. The lieutenant on the left, the general on the right, as in funeral ceremonies. When many people are killed, we feel sorrow and grief. A great victory is a funeral ceremony. Now, that was just kind of a random one, but there's some great leadership quotes in there. Highly recommended. Let's see what else is on my shelf. This one right here, The 21 Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. This is such an awesome, fun read. I will say that there's some parts of the book that I'm not a big fan of. I'm kind of not fan of the overall style of the book, but it's still good. What I love about it is actually the system. And in the back of the book, which, oh, man, this is such a great aspect of the book. Let me see. Okay. Apparently there's always previews of his other books in there. Okay. So he has this. Appendix A, 21 Laws Leadership Evaluation. I love this test. And what it does is when you take this test and you really internalize what the test is trying to do, and you try to answer the questions as best as you possibly can, what you'll come out of it is you'll find out which are the top things, the top traits and behaviors that you have naturally that people are influenced by. It's interesting, but it's so true. My wife and I, we've taken this many times over time to see kind of like our progress and if things have kind of changed and shifted around a little bit. And there's 21 different traits and behaviors in here. And my 3 top ones is victory, it is influence, and it is, let me see, what's the other one? Definitely not process. Intuition. So those are the 3 things for me. So what it means is people are influenced most. Like getting an understanding of my strongest strengths. There are 3 things. Number 1 is influence. Understanding that to move people, they're moved by influence. I know it. I can't not see it. The second thing is victory. I want to win. And you'll never be mistaken of this fact. You will never see me ever not try to win. Ever. This is mission oriented. I'm trying to win. I will force myself to go towards victory, towards winning, even if I don't think that there's value in it. That would be the bad side to victory. The third thing is intuition. And intuition being my ability to kind of understand things without having like concrete evidence of whatever it is, and making decisions based on not having this information. A lot of people have a hard time with it, but it doesn't matter. There's other things that you can be influential with that you do already. Everybody's influential in some capacities, but you need to know what your strengths are. This book is a great one for this. Such a great one. My wife, for example, she has law of addition. People like her. She can command that they come to her parties that she puts together. She can set up events. She's having all these successes, and whether she realizes it or not, and it comes from this addition thing. Addition being she adds value to people. And so she spends a good bit of her time thinking about like what other people want and giving people these things and all that kind of stuff. I don't do that. I'm very low in those numbers. That's not how people are. And people are not influenced by the fact that it's like, you know what? Mike's a really nice guy. He just buys us gifts all the time. And I don't do that at all. I'm not that person at all. I will do that from time to time, but that's not my natural strengths. My natural strengths are convincing you that if you follow my direction, you have a high chance of winning. You have a high chance of success. All right, let's see what else is on the list. I was trying to find this one. Let me see if it's on my desk. No, I don't have it on me, but it's called Thunder in the Sky, and particularly Master of Demon Valley. And I really like this book. It's like it was written at the same time or around the same time as the Tao Te Ching was written, and it was written in a very similar kind of spirit as my Influence and Leadership book. It's not it's about influence, but it's about again, we're dealing with like kind of like old, ancient Chinese wisdom on how to work with people depending on context and time. And it gives it kind of like real pithy, real dense, kind of small statements. Like when it's this, do this. I love that book. You can pretty much only find it on Amazon, and it's a totally nondescript, tiny little book. It's a really good book. Lastly, I don't have it on my desk here. Here, let me go get it. Okay, so the last book that I've got, live television, definitely walking away from it, is the Gospels. This is a printing of just the Gospels, not the entirety of the New Testament. You can see here, and I love the Gospels. This is a nice book, nice kind of version of it. Let me see. I think this thing has like kind of like a cool little, artwork in the beginning here. The Gospels is one of the most influential books in all of human history, which should tell you something that if you want to study influence, you better study this book. You better study the Bible, and studying not just the Bible and just it in its sense. Very important to do that, but study its connection to people and study how it's connected. I would definitely say suspend all of your, if you have it, some people do, suspend if you have any kind of silly preconceived notion about it. You need to drop that so that you have the objective ability to see and understand why this book is so influential. Now, I'll tell you what really drove me to read it and become obsessed with studying this book was just the realization. Okay, the events that unfolded here happened in BC, like 50 BC, something like that. The written word, man, I should not go down this. This is perilous. Anybody who's a Bible scholar that's better than me is going to light me up. But it was not written for hundreds of years. It was verbally given up to that point. Now, what I want to talk about this book is the fact that you can read it. This is the magic of it. You can read it and make immense amount of sense about your life right now from this book. When books do that, to me, it's magical. And when we're talking about influence, like influencing people and leading people, and a book can do that, it can give you tips, like just direct tips. When this is happening, do this. It doesn't give you a lot of explanation of why, okay? I'll tell you that. I'm pretty good at picking out the why, but it does tell you to do it. And what's interesting about it is people get like average results in the behaviors that they do. And the reason is because they're doing average ways of doing it. They're doing it the same way that most people would think about doing any kind of thing. The thing about this book is it tells you how to do things differently, and they're doing things. And as a result, they get different results. Guess what? This is one of the most influential books of all time. What does that tell you? You should consider doing things differently. Now, there's been so many times that the parables in here and some of the basic teachings, my favorite being the Sermon on the Mount, there's all these things like you do this, it really needs to be this. In this circumstance, you need to do that. To me, I love that stuff. And the reality being is I can see how poorly I'm performing as a result, because those situations actually to excel, to do really well in those circumstances requires you to think differently about it. The only way you can do that is you have to see and experience it and get that kind of revelation of how to do it, and then step out and do it and see for yourself that you get different results. That's why I love these books. That's why I like leadership books. You know, John Maxwell and all of them. I see, from Colonel Fox's book, I'm now going to have a more empathetic approach to man and their struggles regardless. I had a pretty reasonable one before, but now it's like I got to take a hearty step back from time to time and cheer people on as they're running across the finish line, whether they're first or last.